You're listening to a main feed episode. Go to patreon.com/Celtic Ligers where €5 a month gets you weekly full-length episodes, stray bonus content and access to the back catalogue. Also helps cover hosting and gives us money for sweeties. Thank you. Celtic Ligers.
Recorded 7th of February 2024.
Did you see that the Karen restaurant has come into Dublin?
What's that one?
It's like, well, you've heard of, you know what a Karen is?
Yeah.
Karen's the newest meme on social media. And it's a way of calling women shrewish and shrill but in a funny way. And this is a restaurant, and you go in, and everyone who works there is a Karen. So you go and you say, can I have the whatever? I don't know what they say.
Yeah.
Lasagna. And she goes, it is real, but I don't know what she would say, because I was going to say, can I talk to the manager? But then she works there.
That wouldn't make sense.
Let me look it up. It's coming to O'Connell Street.
Really? I mean, like that. I think the origin of that wasn't that kind of John Oliver screaming at images, and he would go, "No, Karen, no."
Yeah,
that type of shit, and they would be like, white ladies in America who have that haircut, and they're always like scolding people and want to see the manager.
Boy, do I!
And you bring that to Ireland, and why does that have any salience whatsoever? We don't have Karens. You know? We don't have the name, basically. Like, the name isn't ubiquitous in Ireland with that type of woman. Do you know?
Yeah. What would be our version? What would the name be? Joan Bruton.
No. Yeah.
So here's the article in the Irish Independent.
Yeah.
Fancy an insult with your dinner? Karen's Diner is coming to Dublin next year. And it shows two beautiful women eating ice cream. An Australian restaurant chain for insulting its customers is opening up a new premises in Dublin next year. The famous restaurant, which prides itself on the worst service you'll ever receive, will open up. Just repeat itself the whole time. In announcing the news, they insisted, can't even read an article, they insisted the Irish charm won't work on us. At Karen's Diner, you'll be greeted and waited upon rudely by waiters and forced to play a variety of games. Customers...
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, is it actually Karen like America? Because now you're saying it's from Australia. Are they saying it's Karen's just because that was the name of the original place, like Joe's or something like that?
I think it's just some misreporting, because it says here, for those who don't know, Karen is an Australian slang term used for typically white middle-class women who are perceived as entitled and demanding.
All right. That's not Australian, but...
So the staff at Karen's Diner are pleading their customers don't ask to speak to the manager.
There's like a hot dog place in Chicago where like that's part of the gimmick as well, is that the staff just abuse you, like they just roast you basically. One of the things NPR for This American Life, they actually did a segment at the place, and what ends up happening after the clubs close and people head to get food, a lot of these like rich white banker types will head there and they'll start abusing the staff. Literally, like a lot of the staff are like black, Hispanic, Latino, and they'll just be like, I'm not going to do it like you did it. But they will be using racial slurs.
Say them.
Starting with our favorite.
Yeah.
No.
So at Connell Street, they'll be like, you know, you're an addict. Get out of here, you user. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Try not to use.
They probably will. Honestly, they're gonna be saying it straight up. They will be.
No, the idea is that the staff insult you.
Yeah, but that's the type of insult they'll lay at you. Like, oh shit, we don't have any change. Like it'll be stuff like that, won't it?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like in Australia, they're so racist. They just be like, "Get out, you black bastard," you know, so, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas in Ireland, maybe they will just say that as well. I don't know. What would the Irish version be called?
It'd be called. Yeah, that's the other one I was going to say is that like I can't think of any names that are synonymous with like, middle-aged angry white women. But I was thinking about complete ashling. Like when you say ashling, then they could get away with that because I'm like, oh, I know what that ashling is. It evokes that weird character.
Yeah, man.
Anyway,
that woman launched a career off a Facebook group, wasn't it?
I know. Was two of them?
Not the only one. Shout out to Shane Clifford.
What did he do?
He did a Facebook group
called Shane's
videos.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. What was the ashling thing? It was just like ashling.
She's a ditz. She's somebody who,
she's normal.
I don't know. Do you know the type of thing where she wear like odd socks to a job interview or something like that? Or like,
no, I think
it's always some.
Wasn't it more like she thinks she's almond milk and she goes on holidays? It's like.
Oh, is it? Okay.
She's like boring. She's not like.
I don't know.
She's not like what's a famous diary? Something diary.
Adrian Mole.
No, for women.
Anne Frank.
Yeah, she's not like Anne Frank. Ashley.
Yeah.
No, the other one. She's fat. Then in the film they made her thin.
Oh, Bridget Jones' Diary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not like that.
Okay. I didn't know that.
What?
No, I just thought that it was a Bridget Jones type character, like a Kathy sort of like, oh, I can't get a boyfriend, arg.
It's more like she tells people her boyfriend plays for county. You know what I mean?
Okay. I have to read one of these books. Check them out. Now that the hype's died down, I can finally just enjoy them on their own merits.
Yeah, going around being like, the complete Ashland books are really good. The writing's really good in these, you know? I just want to look at the plot of one.
Maybe it is good. I don't know.
It's definitely. Come on. Don't do that. Just because you hate, you're just trying to atone for the hating Skylar thing. Now you're like, actually, maybe this other shit thing that women do is really good.
Well, I don't know. I just remember your one Emer McSlot, I think her name is.
Emer McSlob.
She was. She also wrote that article that we quoted recently about Niall Harbison, and I just thought maybe she's not like Russell Carol Kelly. She's not some like.
Yeah, they tried
dumbass.
to do.
Maybe she's
They tried to do a female Russell Carol Kelly at one point.
Really?
Yeah, but it never. I don't know. I don't think people were going for it. I'm trying to find the newest complete Aisling book. So this one, oh yeah, here we go. So this book was released in 2021, right?
Wow.
And guess what it's called?
Is it? Should I guess because it's so obvious, or should I guess because just trying to think about what a potential title could
Well,
be.
okay, it's called Aisling in the City.
Oh, fuck off.
Yeah, and it's by two people. Two people wrote it.
Yeah, I know. I knew this. Yeah.
Did you?
Emer McSlott and some other lady. I don't know her name.
Sarah Breen.
Okay.
So this is Aisling is 31.
Okay.
So I guess when she started, she was 21. And she's still a complete Aisling.
Okay.
With Ballygo Brunch flying, and the door firmly closed in a relationship with John, an unexpected job offer sees Aisling boarding a business class flight to New York. Business class.
Mm-hmm.
In her best wrap dressed in heels. As she finds herself in the Big Apple, she throws herself into the dating game, grapples with always-on work culture, forges and fights for new friendships, and brings her good wedges to the parties in the Hamptons, much to Sive's dismay. But catching up with family and friends on WhatsApp and email is not the same thing as sitting in requires, putting the world to rights over many bottles of Pinot Grigio and a shared bag of potatoes. And yet, New York has so much to offer, at least not least in the ridey fireman department. When the crisis in Ballygo Brunch makes her doubt her place in Manhattan, can Aisling retain her New York state of mind? Or will the lure of home be too much to resist?
Jeez, I wasn't sure if you actually reading the fucking book. The length of that.
Yeah, I know.
But I found myself really drifting off on one of the paragraphs. I can't remember which, but it was something like, I was just thinking about like, obviously Ireland's obsession with America.
Yeah.
Just that now she's got to go to New York City. What's that going to be like? I was like, fuck.
I know.
Do you know there was going to be a Hardy Books sequel and it was going to have them going to America?
But there's going to be another Aisling sequel.
Really? I thought that was the last one.
Fifth and final is coming up.
Huh.
Yeah, I think I did know that by the Hardy Books. Even McSlob. Was it?
Yeah.
I wonder how much she makes of these.
Oh, man, not even worth thinking about.
What I'm curious about the Aisling books is they're supposed to be like, oh, she wears wedge heels, but she's actually really good. Is that the idea? Like,
I don't know. I think it is I'm feeling vindicated now that it is a Bridget Jones style. I'm sitting in getting reacquainted with two old friends, Ben and Jerry, after my recent string of romantic misadventures. Especially with New York. Especially now with the inclusion of New York now. And the fact that it was called Aisling in the City.
Yeah.
Ugh. I don't know, man.
Who was the other ones? Anyway, we need to write a book.
We do.
Make €2,000 for 2 years' work.
Yeah. It would be nice to do a book, though. I think about like a little annual or something with like cartoons and shit.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Something like The Ditch did, except fucking fun.
Yeah.
They forgot to put the fun in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the real snooze fest about the mother and baby homes. Oh,
yeah. What else is new?
I have some links, and I'm not talking about Links Africa, which I also have.
Yeah, I have plenty of that.
Yeah, I don't want to be stinking. What happened in the news? Huh?
What happened in the news?
Well, there was the another march by all the right wingers.
Yeah.
Down far right wingers. Yeah.
You know what they call the right wingers?
Yeah.
Is there a right on the right wing?
Yeah, there. I forgot as well. At that party I was at last night, we got talking to these. I guess I just it's really been on my mind because so I saw that demonstration where the Ireland is full people are walking from Parnell Square down O'Connell Street. Yeah. And it was like, there's like 1,000 people there. And because I hate it, I'm constantly trying to be like, well, that doesn't look like 1,000 people. That might not be really, that's really all these people, you know. And then I was like, maybe stop trying to explain it and just be like, actually, there are these hateful people who've done this. And it's a very upsetting thing to think and to kind of be like, what are they thinking? What's the way out of this? What's something that you could present to be like, I don't know if there's convincing people necessarily. As in to try and reach them. People like, how do we reach these people? It's like, I'm actually cutting those people loose and I'm trying to reach somebody else at this point because, you know. But anyhow, I was at this party then and there was a guy.
Even McSlob should write a complete Ashling where she goes out with a Somalian guy.
Yeah.
That'll probably undo a lot of radicalization. You know what I mean?
Think? I thought that the books were targeted at like millennials, sort of, you know, upwardly mobile yuppie
half
types.
Of them are they're like, if you ever looked at one of the anti-vax marches, there's all of them.
Really?
Bunch of fucking Karens, you know, asking to speak to the manager, Tony Houlihan, and you know, serving cunt while they're
yeah. It's funny because like do you remember I was bringing up how like why are they obsessed with the Chinese? Completely forgot about COVID. That's why they're. I was like, I don't know what I was like. I was like, why do they keep insisting that there's Chinese gangs? Why are they screaming at this kid of Asian descent and being like, oh, he's probably Chinese extraction, no doubt. And you're just like, why are they obsessed with the Chinese? And I was like, oh yeah, because of fucking COVID.
Yeah.
How did I miss that?
Well, she wrote a book, and you know, fella gets off the raft, and then he picks up hurling or something. Learns how to split the G, you know, and it'll be like, Yahoo, you know?
Yeah. Okay. All these people, whenever they see that stuff, they're like, that's just propaganda. That's meant to. They've done that to try and get in your head. Yeah. That's the way they do it. Like, this is like, they do that thing where it's like, somebody's like crying or upset or like somebody's like visibly upset and then they'll be like, don't feel bad for them. That's just how they want you to feel. Okay. Yeah. And then they've kind of managed to do that quite successfully of like, you know, I know that this looks unpleasant, but it's necessary. It's like, I have to harden my heart to this stuff because, I don't know. It's destroying my way of life.
That child's just crying because he's scared, you know?
Yeah.
Like, exactly.
And that's the government's fault. That's what they'll be like. Like, I read a quote from Golda Meir there recently because, like, people were talking about all the Palestinian kids who were dying. And then if you're, like, reading the comments on Twitter, somebody will be like, basically what they said is, like, to quote Golda Meir, the worst thing that the Palestinians do to us is to make us kill their children.
Yeah.
They were saying like they train them in hate. They make them hate the Jew, when they mean the Zionist, you know, and so it leads to these confrontations with the IDF. And so the IDF have to shoot these kids and they don't want to. And they're so upset by it. But like, that wasn't my decision. That was your decision. You made that call for me. And that's what they're like now with this, you know, but anyway, so at this party, this guy started talking and I was like, okay, we started talking about politics. And then at one point he was like, let's nip outside. Cause you know, to get away from the fray, to talk about this, get real, you know? And I was like in this kind of mode now where I'm like, okay, let me see what this conversation is. I'm not going to say anything. Yeah. And I'm going to allow this person to tell me what they're thinking and what they're exposed to, you know? Yeah. And very confusing, as is most of the politics in Ireland at this moment in time. Whereby at one point he was like, I don't want to get into, I wouldn't consider, he's like, I'm firmly centrist, okay? I wouldn't consider myself right wing like Fine Gael or left like Sinn Féin. I was like, okay, run for a time now. And then he goes, I don't know how much of this you want to know, but like so there was another guy there, and basically the guy, the self-proclaimed centrist, wasn't as bad as I thought he would be. Whereas the friend who I thought wouldn't be bad was really bad. So your man goes, so the government had to do all these. We were talking about investment funds buying up houses. Okay.
Yeah.
And he was like, during the crash, the government had to do this stuff to fix the economy, and they fixed it. And he moved on. Okay. And then, and that happened. He's like, and then we had direct provision, but that's gone now. And I was like,
why did you say that?
I don't know. I was just like, I don't want to derail this conversation by saying no, direct provision actually still exists.
Yeah.
And he was saying, it's not these migrants' fault that they're being put in these places. But he's also pointing out, of course, that they're not being put in Foxrock, or they're not being put in any of these affluent areas.
Yeah.
The government is just leaning on people and not providing any resources, and then you have these misguided people, and this is their outlet. And I was like, okay. And then the other guy said, oh, it's the Islamics who are just coming over.
Right. Okay.
And he's like, and then he started talking about like the Crusades, and he started talking about globalization.
Yeah.
And then he said he was worried that all of this rising tension would lead to a Brexit-style vote in Ireland, and we'd be out of the EU.
Okay.
I was like, just like trying to keep track of it. I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking. But I couldn't hold it in any longer. I was like, I hate the fucking EU. Okay. And so when I said this, they immediately were like, oh, this guy is right wing then, obviously. So that's what he basically said. He was like, it's not about, I would consider myself a centrist, but like, it's okay to be right wing. And I was like, didn't want to say I was left wing, because then I thought that they'd start talking to me differently,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That was it. I eventually,
that is confusing.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember something else that they said.
So has he sort of been like, it's a reverse of the Crusades? Is it like, we did the Crusades on them, and now they're doing it on us?
No, he was saying that there is, the point that he was trying to make is that basically Islam is a violent, horrible culture that's spreading, is insidiously spreading itself throughout the world, and that they're unable to integrate into our society,
Okay.
And
that's always, it always blows my mind when people are like, Islam is violent because it says this in the Quran. As if like most people don't really pay too much heed to religion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, most people just do whatever, and then they're vaguely whatever religion they are, It's not like every religion, they do exactly what their book says. You can have like liberal versions of any religion. And it mightn't be like exactly by the letter of the law, but like the vast majority of Christians aren't like that either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Or like Hindus, whatever the fuck. It's like, most people just do whatever. And then they just adopt bits of their religion.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Like it's old hat, but it's like the thing of like, there's all this stuff about killing gay people in the Bible. It's like, you don't have to, people don't do that bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They're not going to go, oh, this video repugnant to me, but it says it's in the Bible, so I better do it. They're just like,
yeah,
I just won't do that bit. I'll do the other bits. So there are loads of Muslims who are like, they drink and like do drugs and do whatever the fuck, and then they're like, yeah, that stuff's fine. I just don't do the other bits.
Yeah. I never can you tell me, I know this is a silly question, but what is globalization exactly?
My understanding of it is that it's like, this is my understanding, that used to be that you had like industries confined to different countries, you know? So like like stuff will get manufactured in the country that it was being sold in. Stuff like that. Or like, so you know, have somewhere that would like grow cotton and then make the clothes and then they'd sell them in the country. And the countries were like located sort of domestically, like in the country. Whereas I think globalization was a movement in the after the 80s, 70s onwards. It really took place, really took hold in the 90s, where it was like companies almost acted as like global supply lines. So you had like companies were like, we have like we have a base of operations in this country, but everything we buy gets grown here, and everything that we make, it gets manufactured here. Like, the companies aren't owning stuff, they're just sort of organizing things.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, I get it. I mean, it's kind of, instead of being local, it's opening up trade to the world. And
it's sort of about, like, making countries compete with each other to reduce labor costs. So it's like, say like, when China opened up to the world in the 70s, it was like a source of cheap labor.
Yeah.
And then once labor costs increased, there were companies that were using their labor were just like, right, peace out, we're gonna use Indonesian labor or Vietnamese labor. So it was a way of like always keeping labor costs extremely low.
Yeah. Well, so you're talking about it like that way, but I always think that when people are referring to it, they're talking about culturally, like it's sort of like a cultural homogenization where like people are trying to force American shit down your throat and turn us all into woke liberals, essentially.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why they think that, like in some ways they're right.
Yeah.
Like they're not, but I think it's like, they see people like Varadkar who are like so heavily courting these companies.
Yeah.
They're sort of pitching the country to the company.
Yeah.
And that gives the company a lot of power over,
you
know, like national politics and stuff like that.
I was just thinking, because sometimes when I think about globalization, if it was like a homogenizing thing, I was like, well, maybe that could be a good thing, you know, to have like like an international solidarity, some sort of like all speaking like in like a planet on Star Trek where we showed up and the Bajorans are a peaceful people. It's like an entire planet are a peaceful people. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd love if there was like, so sometimes I think like,
like, isn't that what Marx wrote about? I haven't read too much Marx, but he was like, he had this idea that, like it was like a grassroots globalization. It was like that, like everybody would just own, well, you know, the means of production, and like the whole world would operate under that framework. So like, there wouldn't be a hierarchy where there were like, there's companies that operate between countries. It was just like, there were no countries, there were no companies. Just people make what they need.
Yeah.
Whereas I think when people talk about globalization, it's sort of like, it's like Nike are calling the shots.
Yeah.
Over multiple countries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like a top down as opposed to bottom up.
Yeah, but I don't even know if like this guy in particular, but people more broadly even know what they're saying when they say globalization. There's just another word to throw on the pile about how there are insidious forces that are coming after Ireland, and we need to do something about it. And then they seem to be like,
I think when they say globalization, they think it's like a cultural thing, you know? As in, like, they think Bill Gates is doing it for control. Yeah. Bill Gates. Whereas really, he's doing it for money, you know? Maybe he's doing it for control as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Just really depressing. There's another vacant building burnt down again.
Yeah.
And then the demonstration happened after the building was burnt down, so nothing happening. There's a like the tone of the news around this stuff is really ambivalent. Honestly, they seem kind of like not really concerned, and then when they do talk about it, it's like the legitimate concerns of people, and we have to listen to them, we have to talk to them, and then. But if it was anybody else, if it was like, you know, I don't know, fucking left wingers like Paul Murphy suggesting stuff, they hold them in like absolute contempt. You know?
Oh yeah, if like they thought Paul Murphy was doing this, they'd be sniping him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he'd be dead. They'd be like, bring back the death penalty, time to kill him. You know?
Yeah. I don't know.
And then you have Helen McEntee coming out recently, and she's like, "Oh, we're increasing deportations and all this sort of stuff." And it's like, right, so you're just really telling these people that burning down.
I know.
Like, it's working. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like, yeah, I guess a lot of this is happening in the news at the moment. It's this feeling of seeing the worst shit ever, the most concerning stuff happening.
Yeah.
Like, if you're talking about Gaza, talking about like what's happening in the United States with, you know, Trump in ascendance again. And then just this kind of like establishment just throwing its hands up, going like, well, what do you want me to do about it?
Yeah.
It's like, I just want you to kind of care. And it's like, well, I don't. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's too much you're asking of me.
I just wanted to read, because there was a few things that have happened in the past few days regarding Gaza. I don't know if you saw that with Alistair Campbell. Have you seen this?
No.
So, you know, Alistair Campbell doing his usual thing of continuing to be alive without people stabbing him anytime they see him.
Yeah.
Like, he's going up and he's talking about, you got to vote for Starmer. He's at some event. And some person asks him, my Muslim friends are telling me that they don't really want to vote for Starmer because of his position with Gaza.
And then he goes, first of all, you should not be having Muslim friends.
Well, I mean, it's not like a million miles. Like, he didn't say that, but it's the same tone. What he said was, you just need to get off your high horse about Gaza.
When Keir Starmer does become Prime Minister, one of the most important relationships he's going to have is with the United States. He will, as Prime Minister, have way more influence on this debate than he has now. Does he really want to use up political capital now with the Americans in a way that would make your friends feel a bit better for a few days before they then probably got pissed off with the 28 billion thing? Okay? So I think it's explaining, it's trying to explain that the position that he's adopted is not as simple, cannot be met just by a slogan or an act, which you think will have no consequences, but it could have consequences. Does that make sense? And then I think on the bigger picture, it's, you know, this is the worst government for young people there has ever been. And, you know, in a sense, you've got to say to them, just get off your high horse and vote Labour.
Gaza is not, I know, it's not a high horse. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a low horse. Its dick is scraping the ground,
So the tiny horse with a big fucking prick.
Yeah, he's getting caught in brambles.
Yeah.
Like it's like, you need to stop worrying about that genocide that we're supporting. That, like, just so we can, we focus on the real issue, like, shaking hands with Rishi Sunak,
Yeah, or getting another podcast off the ground where we talk to a Tory about apparently having differences, but none that are very discernible to anybody.
That's it. Purely aesthetic. It's like, I like the Beefeater hats. And then I, as a Labour candidate, want them to wear baseball caps.
Yeah. Somebody was like, the two parties are like austerity, and then austerity, but we're sorry about it.
Yeah, yeah. Or it's like, one's like, I like Prince Charles, and then the other is like, King Charles.
Yeah.
He's cancer now in his behind.
I can't believe, I thought that part was made up. I thought people were just filling in the blanks.
I don't think they do know. But what else could it be?
Well, I thought it was reported recently that it was in his ass, which is very funny. Which is where he likes it also. And I like it as well, because I'm not a homophobe.
Yeah, he's getting pegged to death by some other guy. I don't know.
Here's that one is so funny. I really like, I'm kind of ambivalent towards them.
You think it should be illegal, pegging?
Hey, don't get me freaking cancelled on this podcast. You don't want to know what I think.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of too much estrogen in the water, This pegging craze that has taken hold.
But like, if he did die next year, that would be really funny.
I'd love if he died.
I know. It
like,
was just...
if he was just...
Yeah.
What would be the best way for him to die? Like getting hit by a bus or something. Like something...
Like, even if I didn't hate him, which I do, okay? Yeah. It would just be really funny for him to die, where he's like waiting forever and ever, and then he gets it, and everybody hates him, and then he dies. That would be so funny. What would be even funnier then is if William then died, if him and William died in some accident at the same time, and then Prince Harry became king. That would be really funny,
Yeah. So I don't think he can.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, because you're not firstborn?
I think he gave up all the royal stuff. But then it would be the firstborn of your man.
You know the way they refer to Camilla Parker Bowles? I've seen her referred to as the Queen, but like Prince Philip wasn't the king.
Yeah, I know.
Why is she referred to as the Queen? What's that about?
Just another,
like pegging. It's just
here to stay.
I don't know.
Women can become queens.
Yeah,
but men
can never become.
Yeah, you're born a king.
Something about chess, probably.
Yeah, it'd be good if Prince, what's his name, went to the zoo, and then he had a lot of peanuts in the back of his pocket.
Yeah,
and then an elephant like reached his trunk and he was behind. He was just eating the peanuts, and he's like, "I have to try this at home." That's how he got into pegging.
All right.
You get what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. I just thought that the elephant was like gingerly picking out the peanuts, and you're saying, "No, the elephant is just ramming his trunk in, just really going for it."
Yeah,
making some freaking peanut butter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Emphasis on butt, except I don't like saying butt. The Americans do.
Behind.
Yeah. So the other thing is that Ireland will play Israel in a Eurobasket qualifier. This is in women's basketball.
No. If the women have any honor, they'll strap a bomb to the basketball.
Yeah. It'll just be like, why is this freaking ball ticking?
Yeah, why is it black and have a rope that's on fire?
No, just imagine like it is a basketball, but there's like a fuse. Like,
yeah.
What's this? But yeah, I just started to read this because I was watching the news last night, and so they started talking about this. And this guy came on, who's a representative. His name is Chief Executive John Feehan, and he said this, and I just found this really just fucking yeah. What is happening in Gaza is dreadful. We all acknowledge that. The issue is this going to make a difference to the Israeli government? Quite frankly, we don't believe it will make a blind bit of difference. But what we'll do is destroy our women's international game for the next 10 years. I reiterate, and I'm quite serious about this, we have huge sympathy for the people with what's happening in Gaza. All the players, whether they're in Latvia or not, feel the same way. But the reality is it going to make a blind bit of difference if we make a grand gesture? And the simple answer to that is that in our view, no, it will not. And I'm not prepared to destroy my sport for a gesture that will have no impact.
How would it destroy it? Just miss one game.
I don't know. But you're just like, well, all the bullies are doing it, so like, should I be expected to, have principles? And I just found that like, it's amazing that those guys who are obsessed with Ukraine, they were like, cannot forget about it, must not forget about it. We need to do something. Putin is a danger. And they're like, people give a shit about Gaza and they're like, you still talking about that?
Yeah.
Like, they're just like, that's been, what, a month ago or something?
That's it. You're still talking about Gaza? We're talking about Geezer getting pegged. This old Geezer.
King Prince Charles.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I heard Jacob Rees-Mogg talk. They've launched a new splinter group of conservatives over in the UK called the Popular Conservatives, and it's been abbreviated to PopCon, which is funny because it sounds like a Rasta voice saying popcorn. You know,
there's actually a reggae dancehall guy called Popcorn.
Maybe I knew. I think I already knew that actually. Maybe I was
subtly referencing it,
stealing his bit. Unintentionally. But anyway, Rishi, what's his face? Always getting them mixed up. Jacob Rees-Mogg and Rishi Sunak.
You're thinking about Jamaicans. Of course you say Rishi Sunak.
But Jacob Rees-Mogg was like, he says something to the effect of like, His Majesty's, government or something. And I was I started kind of cracking up. I just thought that was so funny. His Majesty's government. It just sounded so wrong. And then just thinking about like that's Prince Charles's stupid face, it just made me laugh. Like
I know. Rishi Sunak and Jacob Rees-Mogg, they really are like, you know that bot on Twitter that's like, someone posts a picture of themselves and like, here's what you look like if you're black. They really are very similar looking, aren't they?
Yeah, that is.
They're both like tiny, slim people.
And sallow kind of faces as well. Sallow. No, is that what I'm... What? No. What's the one I'm thinking about? Yeah, where it goes in, your cheeks go in.
Blonde.
Yeah, is sallow, that's like skin tone, is it? Have I got that wrong? Sorry, I got that wrong. Rishi Sunak was in Northern Ireland for... the north of Ireland, excuse me, for the Michelle O'Neill becoming the First Minister.
Yeah, I was very... Actually, let's come back from that because I want to tell you about the stag trip I was on, but I wanted to behind the paywall.
Okay. Yeah, let's come back. We'll see you in 20 minutes or so, I think.
Yeah.
Just to be safe. Just to make sure we're well within...
Like, there's not a hell of a lot. I just...
No.
I have one anecdote.
Well, the main thing I was bringing up was just that Rishi Sunak shook hands with Leo Varadkar, and I was like, fucking hell, Sunak is tiny. I couldn't get over how small he was.
I know. Like, he's so small. I know Varadkar's tall, but he really is tiny.
Yeah. And then there was this video, I'll just show you. I'm just putting together my case for the court of just examples of people just getting so checked out on giving a shit about Gaza.
Yeah.
Bad people, I should say. Good people are still, keeping that going.
Keep the free flag flying.
Okay.
Who's this?
So can you see this?
Let me embiggen the screen.
Embiggens the smallest man.
Okay. Bring them home. Who's he talking about?
Can you hear it?
Oh, fuck off.
In the light of what's happened in Israel and Gaza, a song about non-violence seems somewhat ridiculous, even laughable, but our prayers have always been for peace and for non-violence. So, but our hearts and our anger, you know where that's pointed. So sing with us. And those beautiful kids at that music festival. Early morning, October 7th, as the sun is rising in the desert sky, stars of David, they took your life, but they could not take your pride. Could not take your pride. Could not take your pride. Could not take the name of love.
That was something, man.
It really was. That was just so much more. Like, that's like literally like something out of South Park.
Yeah, that was
like literally. It's like Bono coming on. You think he's going to do something like singing for peace.
Yeah,
like trying to both sides the issue.
Yeah,
but no, he's just straight up like, like I stand with Israel. Being like those beautiful kids at that festival.
Those beautiful IDF soldiers, mowed down in their prime, you know?
By other IDF soldiers.
By other IDF stuff. I can't believe it. Like, the number keeps falling. And also, I was prepared for possibly being wrong when I said last week that, when they go, oh, UNRWA were involved in October 7th, and they have, like, 4 people. They were like, and I was like, I'm not even going to give him one. And at that moment, I was being sort of facetious because I was like, it's possible it could be one. But anyway, it turns out it wasn't even fucking one.
Really?
I can't even... Well, according to Channel 4 and a bunch of other news outlets who've finally gotten a look at that dossier, they've like... There's actually nothing in here that compelled... The evidence is not compelling at all, apparently. But yeah, I just wanted to... Another one...
Let me guess who wrote the dossier. Aisling.
Yeah. Oh, it was in all caps for most of it because I couldn't find the button. She's so like that. She doesn't know how to do technology, you know?
Yeah. All caps. Yeah.
But yeah, I was also looking up. Do you know the Sunday Bloody Sunday?
Actually, see, I've never heard that song, and I was like, did he just change the words of that of Bloody Sunday?
No, that song that they started was obviously something like In the Name of Love or something. The one man in the name of. But so it wasn't. Thankfully, it wasn't Sunday Bloody Sunday. But like, it just I just remember like my only kind of knowledge of that song was obviously the chorus. Everyone knows that kind of familiar.
What is the chorus?
The Alan Partridge.
Sunday, Bloody Sunday.
I've actually never, and I'm not even joking, I've never heard a U2 song knowingly.
Wow. What about Beautiful Day?
That was my first time. What?
Beautiful Day.
It's a beautiful day. I thought that was Oasis.
No. Elevation.
Elevation. No breathing. Is that?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just want to say, so basically for Sunday Bloody Sunday, now admittedly they are in their early 20s when they say this stuff, but given that last clip, you're kind of like, has it changed all that much? Probably not. So Sunday Bloody Sunday, according to Wikipedia, grew from a guitar riff and lyric written by The Edge in 1982. So he just had a guitar riff and he was like, all right, let's play this around, let's make this into a song. But then the direct Yeah, dude. Bloody Sunday. But the direct impetus for the lyrics was an encounter with provisional IRA supporters in New York City. Now, that's actually a bit of an exaggeration. So basically, they were meant to be on the 1982 St. Patrick's Day parade, but they later found out that there was a possibility that Bobby Sands, who had died the previous year, would be the parade's honorary marshal. So they pulled out of the parade. Off. Yeah. And apparently they got into an argument with the organizers giving out about,
That's mad because as far as I know, Bobby Sands was incredibly popular in Ireland. It's not like it wasn't like Jerry Adams where he's extremely polarizing to a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, I think Bobby Sands, people just sort of respected and liked him,
Yeah.
Could
well,
be
I mean,
wrong.
you gotta respect anybody who starves himself to death for something they believe in. Do you know?
Yeah, like, I think it would be like if you were like, I hate Nelson Mandela because of the violence he did. Like, I think it's like that level.
Yeah, it is exactly like that. Exactly like that. Like,
that's great. Like, have you seen the video when it's Bono and he's in San Francisco and then he sees like
oh yes,
someone with a banner and it's like, "We love SF" or something like that.
Yeah, for San Francisco.
So for San Francisco, and he's like, "They were a violent organization." That is disgusting what you're saying.
Yeah.
And he's giving out about Sinn Féin.
Yeah. It's crazy. And like, wasn't he on the flight logs? Am I wrong about that? Like, he's like, there was an amazing one. Okay, I'll take that. I'm going to edit that out. But anyway, there's
let me look it up.
But Bono
if he wasn't. He should be.
Bono one time appeared, like, the people that he likes and is willing to give time to are like Mike Pence, George W. Bush, like all these like completely reprehensible figures. And then he's just like, nah, the IRA though, fuck that. It's like, you don't see any reason. But he takes the conflict of Bloody Sunday. What am I saying? Peaceful protesters mowed down by the British military. And just writes this song that's like, why can't we just stop all the killing and the fussing? Do you know?
Yeah.
What does it even mean anymore? But let me read this paragraph that's from an interview with Mullen. What's your man's first name again? Rodney Mullen. He did the Dark Slide. No, the drummer in U2, Rodney Mullen, who creator of the Dark Slide.
I don't know.
This is fucking.
I thought The Edge was the drummer.
No, he's a guitarist, I think. Larry Mullen. Okay. I just want to read this paragraph. Will I go for it?
Please do.
We're into the politics of people. We're not. This is about Sunday, Bloody Sunday. We're into the politics of people. We're not into politics. Like, you talk about Northern Ireland, Sunday, Bloody Sunday. People sort of think, oh, that time when 13 Catholics were shot by British soldiers. That's not what the song is about. That's an incident, the most famous incident in Northern Ireland, and it's the strongest way of saying, how long? How long do we have to put up with this? I don't care who's who, Catholics, Protestants, whatever. People are dying every single day through bitterness and hate. And we're saying, why? What's the point? And you can move that into places like El Salvador and other similar situations, people dying. Let's forget the politics. Let's stop shooting each other and sit around the table and talk about it. There are a lot of bands taking sides saying politics is crap, etc. Well, so what? The real battle is people dying. That's the real battle.
Very, very clever.
So that's that. U2 Against Death, 1983.
Okay. I don't wonder what sort of take that was in 1983.
I think if people, you'd open up like Variety or Rolling Stone. I think it was Rolling Stone where he said that. And you'd just be like, yeah, that sounds about like what some fucking bullshit artist would say. Like, you're talking about like John Lennon and Yoko Ono were, around that time as well. Where they're like, oh, we're not going to get out of bed until all the wars are stopped or some shit. And like, it was just in the ether that celebrities have causes, but they're also like, stupid and ill-informed, and it's the same as it is today, but it's just like, it could not be more black and white what's happening. And to go out and do a concert and be like, we gotta, stop all the killing and the fussing. We don't want any more people dying at this concert, It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, change the record here, man, But I just wanted to lead that into this. There was this guy, Frank Coughlin. Frank Small Coughlin, okay?
Yeah.
When it comes to global affairs, there are no more caveats for Ireland. We need to pick a side, okay?
Yeah. Yes.
I want to read you this article, because I was reading it, I was like, how come I don't have an article? Like, how come these people who are so fucking thick and just have these niche interests that they get to opine on constantly, everything gets to come back to this thing that I like, and anybody who's not talking about the thing that I like is completely unserious, It's just give me this. So, disturbing news that sets your nerves jangling is impossible to circumvent. The world has never been more than half settled, but the nature of how we consume information now means we never get a chance to switch off. You could, of course, hide beneath a rock and pretend nothing is happening, even let on that the world overground isn't turning in your absence. Little is more unsettling at the moment than two major conflicts which may appear separate and self-contained, but are not, and far away, which they aren't either. Our interest in the war in Ukraine has sadly waned, if only because, as with everything else in consumer societies, attention spans are short. Once our capacity for outrage gratification has been sated, we move on. The fatigue hasn't set in over Gaza yet, but will soon. The liberal West can't sustain its attention because the news cycle is always providing new drive-bys. It doesn't mean the outrage and compassion aren't authentic, just that they are neither as deeply felt nor particularly well informed. However, both of these conflicts, separate but at least tangentially linked, just like so many in the countdown to the Great War, may well find new ways of keeping the more observant absorbed and engaged. Now here we go. NATO analysts warned last week that Russian President Vladimir Putin is already in his second year of a decade-long plan to recreate the old pre-1989 Soviet empire with his eyes on Finland and Sweden for good measure. This would have sounded fantastical a short 2 years ago. Now it has an edge of menace about it. Then, over the weekend, the US launched airstrikes against the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in Iraq and Syria. Peaceniks and old guard neutralists will argue with conviction that both reactions are driven by new age Western imperialism and that enduring post-war boogeyman, the military-industrial complex. And I have air quotes for anybody who's, because that's what he's put in here, like these scare quotes. Endearingly naive, of course, but as with all simplicities, it's not without a seductive compensation.
Like, he is just going off here. Do you know what I mean? He's like, the NATO guy said this.
Yeah.
And it's like, he doesn't investigate that at all. He's just like, we know Putin has his 10-year plan and he's 2 years into it. Like, which is an insane thing to say.
Yeah.
And then he's just like taking NATO's word for it.
Yeah, that's it. And then he goes after peaceniks and all. He's like, oh, these gullible fucking people who don't want war and they believe in something called the military-industrial complex. Imagine that. Imagine being that conspiracy-minded that you would believe in that thing, Yeah. While he also is engaging in a conspiracy theory that has less basis in reality.
Yeah. And like, he's also not mentioning Yemen there. Do you know what I mean?
No.
It's like, America have been bombing Syria, Iraq, and Yemen as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Go on. Anyway.
There is either a world order or there isn't, and perhaps it is time we had a grown-up discussion about which side we should be on. The concept of neutrality has deep, well-cultivated roots in Ireland. In his fine book, Is Ireland Neutral? The Many Myths of Irish Neutrality, Conor Gallagher argues that Ireland's revulsion of imperial war goes back to the horrors of the Western Front in 1914 to 1918, copper-fastened by British Prime Minister Lloyd George's threat of conscription. In 1939, sheer horror at the prospect of being dragged into another bloody global arm wrestle, not of our making, resulted in the emergency. Back then, we were a fringe nation, economically protectionist, culturally isolationist, and struggling to find our feet. There are no such caveats now. We should know whose side we're on. Pretending otherwise is a silly conceit, and the one rock we can no longer afford to hide underneath, though it might well be the one we perish on. That's the end of the article. So he's gone to this, presented a false binary where it's like, there's only two options. One, we are like join NATO. Or the other one is that we don't and we get destroyed by Putin.
But like, what does he think wars are fought over? You know what I mean? If he's like, there's no... Like the military-industrial complex, there's the idea that like war and industry prop each other up to make money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, but like, why? What does he think half these wars are about? Like, why do you think Russia's acting the way they do? Why do you think
because they're
America's
evil.
acting the way they do? It's like
because they're noble.
Yeah, like he's that naive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why are we bombing? Why is America bombing NATO or Yemen? And like, why does NATO exist? Like, NATO is a world order. Do you know what I mean? Like, when people say world order, like anyone who's not a complete crackpot, like they really mean like Western order, or they understand that there are like orders of power around the world, and like he's there talking about NATO. That's like a military order.
Yeah.
It's like a treaty.
Yeah.
Or a treaty organization. And then like you have the EU, and then like you have American Empire. I don't know, like those are world orders. And they're like, he's just like, war happens and you have to pick a side. It's like, why do we have to pick a side? Is it just because if we don't support America, we'll get crushed? Is that it?
Well, they want to be American. That's it. He's like, no, actually, they're a force for good in the world and we need to get behind them. But then it's this very funny, like it's typical Irish columnist thing where it's just obviously just gibberish. You know, it doesn't put forward anything. It's just, but I find it quite fascinating that he goes, there's like two things happening in the world, which is Ukraine and what's happening in Gaza, okay?
Yeah.
And then he goes, but people don't give a shit about Ukraine anymore, but they should because Putin's going to take over. And just you watch, soon they won't give a shit about Gaza either. And then he proceeds to go on and not give a shit about Gaza because he's saying, well, obviously we have to be on the United States side. It was like, but the United States are the ones who are funding the Israelis to bomb Gaza in the first place. So you're just talking about like, you know, obviously these are both tragedies, but we need to pick a side and it has to be the Americans. Yeah.
Like, if he's making... Some people make the point and they're like, if we... It's like, we have to support America because we're like essentially under like a vassal state of America.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't support them, we're fucked. And like, at least that's an honest argument. I don't believe it, but like, it's like, I feel like they're acknowledging a real worry.
Yeah.
You know? They're like, I'm concerned about our safety. How do you make, like, safety and morality are different.
Yeah.
How do you ensure safety? Like, that's whatever. But this thing where it's like, there's a good side, there's a bad side, and you have to choose the good side, and the good side's America. It's like, never mind that America and Russia act exactly the same. You know? It's like, Russia's invading Ukraine, and America are, like, invading countries all over the world. Just under different guise. You know? It's like, he's acting like it's a moral question.
Yeah.
He's not even acting like it's a question. He's like, it's a moral imperative to support America.
And also when they ask these, well, it's because he wants to be, you know, like they just like war and they just get a horn for it. And they like the idea of being like, you know, you're watching TV as a 3-year-old, or not 3-year-old, probably like 7 or 8. You'd be like, that's me. I'm the goodie and you're the baddie.
Yeah.
And you just do that. Or like, you know, choosing a football team, like these are my guys and those are your guys, and you know it just adds a bit of texture to life when a bunch of people die and I'm on the winning team.
Yeah, like he's just obviously so certain. To him, it's like it's not going to have any impact on his life whatsoever. So he's just like, all things being equal, it's better to join the war than not to join the war, because you might as well have the right answer than the wrong answer, and then. He's not thinking, he's just thinking like, it makes no difference to me. You might as well To him, it's like exactly the same as voting, like, for Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil. You know, it's like, oh, you might. Basically, it's just not going to have any impact on him. There's nothing at risk for him, so he might as well get what he sees as political reward. You know. And
you've seen it a lot with like Corbyn is kind of coming back and like he's being seen on telly, and people are actually like, no, he's been more forceful than I've ever seen him, honestly. On Gaza. Like he'll come out and he'll just say this stuff, and he's like, "You are murderers," like, you know, being like, "We are complicit in this, but this needs to stop." And I've seen posts by people going like, "God, I thank God he never became PM," you know, like people who are just really like the columnists and stuff, and they think like you're deeply unserious if you don't think that war is an inevitability and we just need to pay for it, you know. And they also kind of diminish their opponents. They kind of go like the people who like who are supporters of neutrality, they just like don't even look at them like anything. They're just like, you think that the world is this way, but it's not. So I can't even engage with what you're saying. And then the people who engaged with neutrality in the past, they were just cowards. They didn't understand, you know, they had other things to think about. But now we have a responsibility because we're like the United States. And it's like, you are not the United States. You're a fucking speck, you dumb piece of shit. But the other thing that I hate that drives me absolutely mad, like I've not read this book, but it's just the title of it, Is Ireland Neutral? The Many Myths of Irish Neutrality. Okay. They'll do this thing like they've done in the past where they're like, you know, we kind of go like, we need to safeguard our neutrality and we need to make sure that we're not engaging in military interventions or incursions. You know, I don't know. I'd be the first to be like, I don't know about the military. I don't really give a shit. But the point is like, you have to be very careful and you have to be like keeping your neutrality in check and just asking questions about what's our role if we have a military and they're a peacekeeping presence. What do you do? And then, so when you do something like, okay, the Americans are landing in Shannon, and then you go, that shouldn't be happening. It's like, it's fine. You know, this is just happening, you know? It's a small thing. It doesn't violate our neutrality. And then years later, once that becomes a given, then it's like, well, sure, how can we even call ourselves neutral? The planes are landing in Shannon. It's like, I was against that. I didn't want that to happen.
I know. Like, and then it's like, it's always the argument is always like, oh, sure, we are never, like, we do all these things, and that's not neutral, so we should just pick a side. It's like, surely the answer should be, so we should stop doing those things.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but it's also acting like people weren't against those things as well. Like people, I'm sure, and then the past becomes like this thing, you know, same for like the far right as well. Like all of these characters from the past get flattened. You know, Connolly is the same as Michael Collins or Porrick Pierce, you know? Even though they're like massively politically different. You know, there's like yards between them. And it's the same now. It's like the past becomes like one united country. It wasn't like that there were people who wanted to go to war back in the, you know, in 1939. Ooh, sorry. I'm really bad with dates. I don't know anything about, you know, but in the years of the Second World War, okay, it's not like, oh, we all decided that we didn't want to go. There was probably people who did want to go. Probably people who thought it was like in our interest to go, and there was probably dickhead columnists like this putting out those arguments. But like, just you're talking about something that's dead. The past, you know, the past isn't here to defend itself, you know, and you're just relying on people not knowing as much about their history to make this point. I mean, he clearly doesn't know anything about history either.
Yeah.
He's just like, please no, my favorite TV show is being cancelled, the Ukraine show. We need to get some more episodes of this shit out. In fact, we need to get involved. Wouldn't it be great to have an Irish person on there? You know, like it's like an MCU movie where it's like, but like, you know, in the MCU where they're like, we now have the first black superhero in the MCU, and everybody's like applaud. This guy would be like, we need more inclusion. We need Irish people in there. We need to have the first Irish person in the, you know, the UCU, the Ukraine Cinematic Universe. But anyway, apparently the people who are, you know, pro-neutrality, they're the ones who are naive and stupid and ill-informed and don't know what's going on. just that tone of contempt really pissed me off. And also the fact that his picture on Twitter is his profile image is the
Frank Sidebottom.
The Frank Sidebottom head, which is obviously the movie head, which is like a different character really, but still.
That film was so shit.
I fucking hate that film.
It was so disappointing.
When I heard about that film, I saw, so the first picture was the Frank Sidebottom head, Michael Fassbender, Donald Gleason, and then Maggie Gyllenhaal. And they're standing out in the middle of the desert. And I was like, yes, let's do this. I can't wait. And then when I found out Lenny Abrahamson was doing it, I was like, ooh, I'm getting a bit nervous because he just does those miserable films in Wicklow about people. And I was like, does he have it in him to do like a comedy? And the answer is no, he does not. He has. And I did another thing though, because like John Ronson wrote the screenplay, and John Ronson was Frank Sidebottom's keyboard player.
Was he?
Yeah, at one point, like for a short period.
That's one of the things I love in the show. Frank Sidebottom show, at the end, he was like, we have the keyboardist from Strokes playing the drums.
Yeah. It's so weird.
The piano player from this,
Yeah, so good. But like, one other thing is that Chris Seavey, who played Frank Sidebottom, had another band called the Freshies, and they actually did do a song that was anti-NATO, which is just, I don't know. I just thought it was appropriate for this because NATO would have been a recent thing at that time, all right? And the lyrics go...
Yeah.
And like, he was basically saying like, the whole song was about like, why don't you take that money that you're going to spend on all those rockets and why don't you give it to everybody else and we'll just have a good time. And even if the world blows up, then at least somebody will actually be happy with that money instead of it being spent on making people's lives miserable. But the idea and that very like, baseline sentiment was just, NATO is bad. NATO sucks. NATO is bringing us into unnecessary incursions, okay, or interventions. But anyway, in the movie though, with John Ronson wrote a book about his time with Frank Sidebottom, and it was really good. And the script, I read the script, and the script is really good. The script is a great script, and then you see the movie, and it's just like There's two things that are wrong with it for me personally, which is visually it's the most depressing looking movie for the most cheerful character. And then two, it fundamentally does not understand the thing it's depicting, outsider music and art, okay? Because, and like, I've said this actually a few times on another podcast, in fact. I got interviewed for like, what's that one that Hannah Mamelis does with Edwin Salmon? Like the reviewables.
I didn't know.
Maybe they don't do it anymore. It was a fucking head stuff. A head stuff. Boo hiss. But like, I was on, they were like, just talk about whatever. And so what I ended up talking about was fucking Movie Bob and then Frank the movie.
Okay.
Bizarre. Like, probably the worst. But I'm still going to make this point again, which is when Frank makes his most popular song ever, okay?
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
The Coca-Cola.
Yeah, let the lipstick Aphrodite.
Coca-Cola, lipstick ring, go dance all night, dance all night. I've got dancing legs, woo! I've got dancing legs. They won't stop me dancing, no, they won't stop me dancing. Kiss me, just kiss me, Aphrodite. Just the way you like it, just the way you like it. Kiss me, lipstick ring, oh, that's the way you like it.
Or that thing.
Yeah,
and they're like, the room is meant to be like, that is the shittest song ever. And it's like, that's a Frank Sidebottom song you just played. Like, that sounds like a Frank Sidebottom song.
Oh, yes, I love the North, especially those fantastic arcades. Have you seen it?
Or a Daniel Johnston song.
Big business monkey.
Or any of these like outsider musicians. And then what you do is you're like, but no, the good stuff is this fucking like fucking mush, like.
Yeah, like the Killers sort of thing.
Yeah, just like, oh, it's so crap. It's so crap. And like, he just not funny, doesn't understand why that stuff is good, and then just makes this visually depressing film out of a script that I said was really good. A good script.
Yeah.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah, Thanks I Bought him so inspirational.
I know.
I love all the stuff he did with the video games, the computer games.
Yes, yeah.
They're like, well, did he make something that was like a tape that you could play a game on? Or
it was a vinyl. It was a record.
Yeah, was that it? Yes.
And somehow he made a vinyl record, which on one side had the track, and on the other side, if you hooked it up to your TV or like a Spectrum 2600 or whatever console they had back then. Because that was another thing, is that at the time of video games' infancy, there was no like, oh, here's the PlayStation and here's the Xbox. It would be like, it was just like, you could be a hobbyist and just make a video game and just release it, and nobody will fucking hassle you. And you know, a controller for an Atari thing could fit in the controls of the Spectrum or whatever. It was like, there wasn't any of that thing where it's like, no, there's this unique hardware that is specific to each. But anyway, so what he did is, he apparently was, the joke on the thing, he was being interviewed and he's like, yeah, no, I was meant to go and pay my phone bill. And then I saw this thing and I just went in and bought this instead. Just money for the phone bill. And so what he decided, what it was a vinyl disc that had like some weird like engravings on one side of it, which when plugged into your TV or the Spectrum, would show the lyrics for like a very rudimentary music video.
Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah. Like, that's just incredible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How old was he when he died?
Is 61 or something.
Was he that old? Like, you know.
Yeah. They had another one there, because I watched the movie Being Frank, the Chris Seavey story, which was on. And also, by the way, like Michael Fassbender in the Frank movie, he puts on an American accent, and at one point they see him and he lives in Austin, Texas, where Daniel Johnston is from. So they're making direct allusions to Daniel Johnston. God, I fucking hate Wicklow. I hate seeing it on film. I'm fed up of seeing Wicklow, okay? Like, because when the movie starts off, they try to make Dunleary stand in for, like, somewhere in the north of England, okay?
Yeah.
And then, so you have, like, you know, these people living in suburbia, working class families, you know, like Daniel Johnston, like Frank Sidebottom or Chris Seavey.
I don't think Daniel Johnston was working class, was he?
Well, I mean, his family was working class.
Were they?
I think. Well, I mean, you know, I guess...
Like his dad had a plane.
That's true. I did think about that. Maybe, but yeah,
right,
maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
I take your point about Frank Blank.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that these kind of planned communities, these sprawling houses, you know, semi-detached houses, are kind of like, when you're watching like a documentary like The Devil and Daniel Johnston, or you're watching the Chris Seavey story, they're very front and center for the whole thing, you know, like as in these communities and these houses. And so in the movie, when they go, oh, Frank then went to retreat to fucking Wicklow, or like, I don't know if they called it Wicklow, but the fact that he's in the middle of like these green hills and they're at the bottom of like a waterfall or something like that. And I was like, this sucks. This sucks.
Yeah, I know.
And you can see the stupid decisions that were like, hey, we can get some money if we do this. Like, if we do this in Ireland, then we can get this tax break and we can get this bit of money. And then if we use South by Southwest Festival, then they'll give us money so that we can promote that festival as well. And it's like, there's all these kind of unpleasant calculations that are being made to tell the story of this lo-fi artist, you know?
Yeah. I know, it is just what people in film think quirky is like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're just like, Yeah, he's a real hippy dippy guy. So he goes to festivals and he lives in the woods.
Yeah.
And it's just they don't engage with the actual culture. You know?
Yeah, and it because Lenny Abramson is not funny. Like all of the comedy is very. When people are delivering jokes, they're kind of delivering them very loud, you know? So like one of the opening scenes of the film is a keyboard player for the band is trying to kill himself by going into the sea. And that's how Donald Gleason, aka John Ronson, gets the job.
Oh yeah.
You know? And it's meant to be played for laughs. So when you read the script, then it sounds like a John Ronson story. And John Ronson stories are like these, you know, very dry, funny, understated things.
I wake up in the middle of the night. I find I'm still angry with the boys who threw me into Roath Park Lake in Cardiff in the summer of 1983 when I was 16. I log on to Friends Reunited. I find one of them, an email to inform him that I am now a best-selling author. He emails me back. He says that the reason why they did it was because I was a pain in the arse. He says the tenor of my email leads him to suspect that I haven't changed and that throwing me in the lake again today would be an appropriate response. I email him back to say I earn more money than he does.
Whereas when you see it in the movie, there's a lot of clattering and a lot of, I don't know, hollering. Yeah. The energy is off, is what I'm saying. Like you could totally imagine like some sort of very wooden Wes Anderson type comedy being told. But I just don't think your man has it in him to do that.
It's real Dick and Dom stuff, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know, like catch up on the...
Yeah.
We've talked about this a lot, but just not letting something go by without just being like, you get it? You get
yeah, exactly.
Are you aware that this is incongruous, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to turn on my light.
Okay. I'm going to get another coffee.
I'm going to get a cup of tea then.
That's the first half. In the second half, the Ligers talk Thomas Hand's latest fantasy about killing his daughter, Michelle O'Neill becoming First Minister, and then Gar gives out about the Palestinian Chicken episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. This and more for €5 a month at patreon.com/CelticLigers. Be good.